Number 10. Thomas Gibson. Thomas made a name for himself, starring as one of the leads of the series Criminal Minds. He was on the show for a few years, and in that time he made a few problems for those unfortunate enough to be staff members of the series. There were some issues over the years that would have warranted some actions, like screaming at producers and writers for not doing a good job, but the incident that got him kicked off the show for good involved, well, a kick. In 2016, Thomas was swiftly fired from the series after an incident with a writer named Virgil Williams. An internal investigation revealed that Thomas kicked Virgil one day during production of an episode that Gibson was directing. As I said, this was not the first incident on set that really should have resulted in some kind of a punishment, though. In 2013, he pleaded no contest to No Juice related reckless driving after being arrested on suspicion of a DUI, and 3 years before that, he allegedly shoved an assistant director named Ian Wolfe during a late-night location scene. That led to the studio ordering Gibson to take 8 hours of anger management. According to most people on set, Thomas was a wild card. Some days he'd be friendly and accommodating, and then the next day he was ballistic. Number 9. Joaquin Phoenix. We understand a dedication to one's craft, and Joaquin is just a prime example. Joaquin's acting career has been going steady since he first appeared in the 1989 comedy Parenthood when he was in his mid-teens. While he's seen as one of the greatest actors in recent history, his reputation on set was tarnished thanks to a little freakout while filming the 2018 solo flick Joker. He appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live to promote the film when Jimmy played a behind-the-scenes clip of Joaquin getting loud and angry at a man named Larry, and the constant whispering behind the cameras before dropping an F-bomb and storming off the set. When the cameras came back to the studio, Joaquin was just frozen in shock. He was clearly not expecting that clip to ever see the light of day. He explained that Larry was a cinematographer who was teasing Joaquin off set earlier in the day, calling him a diva and referring to him as Cher. In fact, during his on-set outburst, you can hear him say, "Calling me Cher, how is that an insult?" He then explained that there's a lot of pressure on set, especially in a closed space like the apartment from the scene, and he apologized to the audience for having to see him behave in such a manner, which was met with applause. At the end of the day, he's a performer, and no harm came from this outburst, so if Larry's cool with it, we're cool with it. Number 8. Bill Murray Lake Toss. Bill Murray's going to be on this list more than once, and for good reasons. For this entry, we're talking about the film What About Bob and its extremely toxic set while filming. Bill Murray was really getting on his co-star's nerves, Richard Dreyfuss from Jaws, literally berating and bullying this man between takes to get the best performance out of him. In the years since, he claimed that Richard encouraged him to do this, but Richard claims that that never happened and is a complete lie. Considering the incident that this entry is actually about, though, he got off pretty easy. On the same set, Bill got into an altercation with producer Laura Ziskin, a woman who is so respected that she has an achievement award named after her. This woman was subject to Bill's diva behavior, and one day during a disagreement, Bill Murray picked her up and just tossed her into a lake. When describing the event, she claims that it was playful, but according to everyone else on the set, it was just the wrong word to use. Number 7. Jenna Ortega. Jenna participated in one of the most popular streaming shows of this year on Netflix, playing Wednesday Addams in Wednesday. The series really helped launch Jenna's already growing career, and of course the series was picked up for a second season. However, it seems that Jenna may end up writing that entire season herself, because the writers of season 1 just didn't do a great job according to her. A while back, and before the writer's strike, Jenna made comments about having to put her foot down on the set of Wednesday. According to her, the writing was just odd, and honestly, Jenna made so many good points. She felt that the things that Wednesday was doing made no sense. She was involved in a love triangle that was just weird and honestly distracted from all the good parts of the show, and some of the lines that she was supposed to say were cut after she expressed concerns. There was a line of dialogue that saw Wednesday say the words, "Oh my god, I love it. Ugh, I can't believe I just said that." To which Jenna said, "No, Wednesday is not some valley girl with an emo side. She chops the heads off siblings if they let her." She claims that a ton of writers will agree that she is difficult and unprofessional at times because that was the only way to make her character work. She'd literally changed the dialogue during a take, and then the writers were just constantly confused. Ortega has claimed to be very protective of her character and has every intention to make season 2 better in every way, dropping any love stories surrounding Wednesday and instead opting to dive in deep on the dark and macabre that Tim Burton is really known for. The writers released sarcastic statements claiming claiming that Jenna should really just write the next season herself since she's so good at it. Okay, let her do it. It's probably gonna be great. Number 6, Justin Bieber. In 2015, Justin was performing on the Today Show, debuting his new song, What Do You Mean? During his performance, he got super excited and started dancing while singing, one normally would. But moments later, he was caught on air dissing the camera operator, saying that he might as well not dance since the cameras don't even move. He said next time he won't dance. It seems like a waste of effort. He was visibly annoyed as he ended his time on the show. Fans of Justin were very quick to question his aggression in the moment. Before he was cut off by a commercial break, Justin starts to rant about what he even does this for, and if they're just gonna, and then he was cut off. Not long after this on-air mishap, Justin actually announced that he was gonna take a little break from music. The two seemed to be unrelated, but hey man, you never know. Maybe he had some real regrets when it comes to scolding a camera person that did nothing to you before that. But come on, out of all the mistreatment scandals surrounding Justin Bieber, this one's the silliest. When Justin appeared on the set of CSI, he actually upset an entire crew with his behavior. According to several eyewitness accounts, Justin locked a producer in a closet out of frustration and put his fist through a cake that was on the craft service table. Justin dismissed these claims as baseless rumors, but like a lot of people saw him doing that, so I don't know, you be the judge. Number 5, Barbara Corcoran. Shark Tank, what a wonderful program. Seeing some up-and-coming entrepreneurs get their start thanks to the endorsement and partnership of the Sharks. One of the Sharks, Barbara Corcoran, was blasted online after a resurfaced clip showed her saying how much she loved to fire people. Firing someone is a difficult conversation, doesn't usually end well for both people involved. However, for Barbara, it's her favorite thing in the entire world. These comments resurfaced as there is a labor shortage across the US, so that didn't help. In an interview on the Diary of a CEO podcast, she revealed that she loves firing people, especially on Fridays. What she loves to do is pop by someone's desk on Wednesday, book an appointment for Friday. Instead of giving them a proper reason for firing though, she'll actually just tell them that, she's not really sure why. They just don't really fit with the company. I don't know what makes this woman think it is a fun thing to be fired, but nonetheless, people are fuming. Many fans simply wonder if she owns a Dalmatian coat. More than likely. Number 4, Christina Aguilera. There have been a few instances of Christina being a menace to her staff or just people that she's worked with in the past. Today we're going to focus on her time as a judge on The Voice. According to several sources close to the show, she was a nightmare to work with. Apparently she always shows up late and just doesn't seem to care or apologize for holding up filming of the show. To make things worse, she is constantly arguing with Adam Levine. As early as 2012, insiders told production on The Voice that they much preferred Adam Levine to Christina. Apparently the makeup crew of the show acts as a NASCAR pit team. Every time herself and Adam get heated, whether it's on or off camera, she's directed to the makeup team to cool off. They then apply product to her face like she's Ricky Bobby in the middle of a race. According to producers, she made outrageous demands, including the introduction of a foot massager to the staff. Someone's only job on set was to massage Christina's feet every 30 minutes. No thank you. Number 3, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis. Now, it may come as a shock to you that 2 of the 4 members of the legendary Ghostbusters just kinda despised each other, but it turns out that this is very much the case. While filming Bill's more popular film Groundhog Day, it turns out that the star was in a rough place. According to the crew, he tormented Harold, the director of the project, constantly, showing up late, being consistently unavailable, and just being overall really mean. Apparently the main cause for concern was just Bill's overall feelings about the movie. He took issue with the way it was filmed, some of the dialogue he had to say, and just seemed to disagree with Harold about everything. Despite their collaborations before this on movies like Ghostbusters and Caddyshack, they just did not see eye to eye on anything. Bill wanted this movie to be more serious and philosophical, but Harold had to constantly remind him it was a comedy. At the end of the day, the constant arguments made a terrible time on set. Number 2, Katherine Heigl. Kathy was riding high back in 2007. The former Grey's Anatomy star not only won an Emmy for Best Supporting Actress in a Drama Series, but she also began transitioning to the big screen with the success of her first feature film, Knocked Up, alongside comedy legend Seth Rogen. Now, unfortunately, her rise to the top quickly became a free fall into an active volcano. following an ill-fated Vanity Fair interview the following January. In the interview, Catherine made a move that still has people scratching their heads to this day. She openly bashed the film that made her famous, claiming that it painted women as shrew, humorless, and uptight, while also placing blame on Seth Rogen for writing the men as lovable, goofy, and fun. The film still sits at an impressive 89% on Rotten Tomatoes because, now while she might claim the project was problematic, the final product is just a fun love story filled with good jokes and performances and a good story. Seth felt betrayed by the comments as they never had a fight on set and it never seemed like she was uncomfortable at any point. These comments, combined with some negativity towards her Grey's Anatomy writers, caused her agents to drop her as a client, and her time in Hollywood quickly came to a screeching halt. And at number 1, Bill Murray and Lucy Liu. Sony's first foray into the world of Charlie's Angels was massively successful thanks to its stars, Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and of course Lucy Liu as the titular angels. This movie was filled with action, comedy, and one of the weirdest performances ever given by Crispin Glover. That dude needs help. One interesting addition to the cast, though, was the inclusion of Bill Murray as the main man behind the mic, Bosley. Now apparently the set was anything but a comedy though after Bill found out a scene was rewritten while he was away. In an interview with the news outlet Deadline, Lucy Liu spoke up about her time on set and Bill Murray's outburst. Apparently Bill was away for a family event when a scene needed to be refilmed, and instead of using a stand-in, they just decided that it could go on without Murray's character being involved. So the scene was filmed and that was that. When he returned to find that the changes were made while he was gone, he was furious. He reportedly shouted at half of the crew, including Lucy herself. At the time, she wasn't sure why he was aiming his comments at her. She didn't write the scene, she wasn't the director, and she asked Bill if he was talking to her, and apparently that sent him into a meltdown. She decided to speak out on Bill's behavior, and he was ultimately written out of the sequel. Lucy's pretty proud for speaking her mind despite being a relatively unknown actor at the time, and so far it looks like Bill's career has suffered from it, because Lucy was just the first of many celebrities to comment on his behavior, but we could do a whole top 10 list about Bill Murray. Number 10, Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro was brought to court thanks to an ex-assistant, and he lost. Robert's production company was found liable this past week for gender discrimination and retaliation and were ordered to pay $1.3 million to Graham Chase Robinson. While Robert himself was not found guilty, his company was. Graham accused De Niro of workplace mistreatment during her time as his assistant and financial advisor. Between 2008 and 2019, her life was a living nightmare. Robert had apparently been subjecting her to inappropriate behavior on a lot of levels. The allegations range from Robert swearing and hurling insults to asking Robinson to scratch his back. Literally. He admitted to almost all of the accusations but gave excuses for each one. For instance, it was only 2 back scratches, okay? No big deal. Robinson claimed that she quit during a full-on mental breakdown after being overwhelmed by the work and Robert's role as her boss. She's not worked in over 4 years despite applying for a reported 643 jobs. In that time, she estimated losing around $12 million, both monetarily and mentally. The jury calculated the exact amount that she would have earned had Robert not bullied her into submission, which was not $12 million, but like I said, somewhere closer to 1.3. That is still a lot of money. As I said, Robert De Niro was not personally responsible, so the payout came from his production company, but he has maintained that his assistant exaggerated their claims for profit. Number 9, Madonna. Madonna's voice is known around the world, but so much so in fact that she can be a bit mean from time to time. Not only have there been eyewitness accounts of her being rude to fans, but she is also a bit stingy when it comes to her staff. A few years back, an anonymous source revealed that when one of Madonna's dancers broke her arm during practice, instead of being more concerned and helping, she had a full-on meltdown, berating the dancer for being so bad at their job. There was also allegations that she said there will be no fat country singers in her presence, only she didn't say re-singers. Another source backed these stories up and added that Madonna does not pay very well, but she knows that she can pay people to work grueling hours for low income because, hey, she's Madonna. There are probably some people out there who would work for a turkey sandwich just to be someone's assistant. White bread with lettuce, please. The source agreed that if there is one common theme with Madonna and her staff, it's that her ego overshadows them, and they're supposed to feel lucky to be in her presence. Neither source specified when they quit, but considering the stories, it sounded like they were with Madonna for quite some time. Number 8, Lizzo. It was recently revealed that a lawsuit was filed against the famous pop singer Lizzo, accusing her of creating a toxic work environment and mistreating her background dancers. The accusations range from fat shaming her crew to forcing them to eat strange fruit from strange places. Yum yum. One of the dancers, Crystal Davies, who is part of the lawsuit, was fired for secretly recording a meeting between herself and Lizzo. The meeting was about the dancer's performance on stage recently, and Lizzo apparently disliking the weight that she had been gaining, claiming that she wasn't committing to her role. According to the plaintiffs, Lizzo made them work ridiculous hours, including up to 12-hour rehearsal days. One of the dancers recounted an experience of having to use the washroom and being forced to do it in her pants while rehearsing so that she didn't lose any time. Like, hey, Lizzo, if someone has to use the bathroom, just let them go. It took longer for them to get that poor woman a new pair of pants than it would have to just let her take 5 minutes. When the news broke, the world collectively turned on Lizzo and so far have believed every single word that has been said. Now, while Lizzo continues to deny the allegations, her career has gotten worse and worse. A lot of her live stage shows have been canceled, her music's been pulled from radio stations, and there is still currently an investigation taking place. So it's not good. It's not good for Lizzie. Number 7, Rihanna. A lot of one-name artists on this list. Is it really a shock to learn that Rihanna does not talk to the hired help? Well, ignoring somebody is one of the meanest things that you can do to a person, making them feel like they don't exist or are not even on the same level as you, and they don't deserve to even be acknowledged. Like, that just hurts. Most celebrities know how not to do that, but others seem to only have this negative setting in their soul. Over the years, it's been said that pop singing sensation Rihanna doesn't even look or speak to her staff. An anonymous source revealed that Rihanna literally refers to staff as the hired help. She also falls asleep when she's getting her makeup done, which must be great for everyone involved with that. Just Rihanna snoring in a chair. She's just warming up her vocal cords. It's fine. It's fine. Rihanna is also known for being pretty rude to her fans as well. One lady won backstage passes for herself and her family, but when they got back to do their meet and greet portion of the tickets, Rihanna didn't even look at them and asked one of her assistants to come sign something for them, sitting in her makeup chair like a Disney villain, shooing people away. Number 6, Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is known for a lot of things. A Star is Born, her music career, but for ex-assistant Jennifer O'Neill, Lady Gaga is simply known as evil. O'Neill filed a lawsuit against her former boss in 2013 for $400,000, the money that she claimed that she was owed from her time working as Gaga's assistant. Clapping back against the claims, Gaga got heated. Try saying that 10 times fast. She counterclaimed that she was forced to do most of the assistant's work herself, complaining that she was forced to carry large bags to her room all by herself, like a normal person. Ugh. O'Neill worked with Gaga for 13 months on a $75,000 salary and accompanied her on her Monster Ball World Tour. In trying to justify her actions as a boss, she admitted to partying late at night, sleeping in all day, and literally screaming in the streets. During the court hearing for the case, she also launched into an F-word fueled tirade, swearing over and over at Jennifer. Gaga was basically blasting this woman with allegations and just claiming that everything she was saying was false. Gaga claimed that Jennifer was always made to be an equal on tour, where Jennifer claims to have been overwhelmed with work. Instead of paying O'Neill the damages, Gaga claimed that she was going to spread the wealth to the people that currently worked for her, aka the ones who really deserve it. Eventually, they were able to settle the situation outside of court, but that exact dollar exchange is not known. Number 5, Christian Bale. Rumors that the former Batman actor is mean to his co-stars and his crew have run rampant for years, ever since his infamous voice recording captured on the set of Terminator Judgment Day. For those of you who don't know, he shouted at a guy for being in his line of sight during a take. Basically it. However, a former publicist of Christian's named Harrison Chung shared a ton of behind-the-scenes stories, including the fact that Christian was a very mean person, to the point where he literally made little kids cry when they approached him as fans. Instead of appreciating his reach and enjoying his time with fans, he reportedly responds to them with anger and a lecture about personal space. Chung claimed that working for Christian was a nightmare, so much so that he had to take years of therapy. There have been a few stories regarding Christian and his anger over the years, but making kids cry and forcing this guy to go to therapy means there is seriously a problem with Christian Bale. Number 4, Ellen DeGeneres. Ellen had one of the most successful daytime talk shows of all time right up until 2020. Her show became overwhelmed with accusations of toxic work environment from former employees. There were claims that Ellen's happy exterior was nothing more than a facade put in place to keep her audience on her team. A small bit of proof came when she accused 50 Shades of Grey actress Dakota Johnson for not inviting her to a birthday party, and Dakota reminded her that she actually did do that, but she never got a response back. Fans started questioning this awkward moment, and the cracks in Ellen's appearance began to grow bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually, an article was released containing testimonies from several former employees, so much so that she was forced to cancel herself and her show for good. Number 3, Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian is arguably the most famous of her Kardashian sisters and would also seem to be the busiest. For example, Kim has 4 kids, a skincare line, her Skims brand that she attends law school, co-founded an equity team, and recently even hopped on the podcast train, in addition to filming her new reality show on Hulu. Now you may be asking yourself, how does one woman do all of this by herself? She pays people to do her job, of course. She has multiple assistants and nannies to help her stay above this overwhelming workload, but has been known to treat them as lesser than. For instance, on several occasions, Kim and her daughter North would go to lunch accompanied by their nanny, but Kim made her not only sit at a separate table far away from them, but she is known to make her nannies walk at least 10 feet away from them at all times, unless she has multiple people with her, and then she makes them walk behind her like a flying V formation because it looks cool. If they walk near her or attempt to walk side by side, she just kind of blows up and screams at them behind closed doors. Needless to say, she's had many nannies over the years and has probably made them all cry at least once. Number 2, Kourtney Kardashian. Now, while Kim may not be the best boss in the world, Kourtney Kardashian is known as the absolute worst boss of all time. According to former nannies, Kourtney was by far the worst Kardashian to work for. Not only is she a neat freak, needing every single thing to be exactly where it needs to be, she is also known for being super cheap, even once calling a grocery store while she was shopping to compare the price of a chicken breast, because if anyone needs that extra 99 cents, it's Kourtney Kardashian. But this isn't the worst thing that she's done. At one point, Kourtney's daughter had bitten a nanny so hard that she had to quit, but instead of letting it go and taking responsibility for not teaching her daughter how to act properly, she berated the nanny, telling her that she should have said something to her daughter in the moment. Because yes, blame the women that you're paying to raise your kids instead of the kid itself, who probably has abandonment issues. Number 1, Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner is the youngest of the Kardashian clan, but she is also extremely successful for her age. In 2019, she was on the cover of Forbes magazine as the youngest self-made billionaire ever, following a partnership between her cosmetic brand and Ulta, which is a beauty salon company. This would allow the brand, previously only available online and in stores that randomly popped up here and there, to be placed on shelves in Ulta's 1,000 plus stores. Unfortunately, the true nature of where these products come from made people kind of step back a bit. Many employees at the factory that mix and package these makeups and beauty products have reported that they were never given proper safety equipment that you would require to do your job. Like, they were only given hairnets, lab coats, and safety goggles, which meant that their hands were just good and free to get burned, and their faces were as well. Workers would regularly report migraines, chemical burns, all that fun stuff. But if this isn't bad enough, they were also forced to act as human test subjects for Kylie's products. Kylie was so proud of her company not testing things on animals, but I believe testing things on people is just so much worse. Just a little bit evil. She's a supervillain. Number 10. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan is known for a lot of things in this world, okay? Her public meltdown, her ability to get estranged parents back together, and of course, her penchant for the partying lifestyle. As you can imagine, it's not easy being someone that works at one of these events, especially considering that they work for a woman that would regularly wake up late in the day and hung over a railing. Only she wasn't on a railing. Unfortunately, many people know that dealing with someone who wakes up late in the day after a long night of no-no juice-induced good time times is a difficult person to deal with. Recently, some of Lohan's staff members have confided that she often wakes up at noon at the earliest. Naturally, she's always in a terrible mood and is extremely short with her staff. They claim that Lindsay would regularly take her frustrations out on her staff members simply because they were there and they were easy targets. They said that it should be a law if you deal with someone like Lindsay that an automatic bonus should be thrust into your bank account. Imagine if the lead of Herbie Fully Loaded started yelling at you at 12 in the afternoon. Beep beep, I quit. Number 9. Rihanna. Is it really a shock to learn that Rihanna does not talk to the hired help? Ignoring somebody is one of the meanest things that you can do to a person, making them feel like they do not exist or are not on the same level as you, and they do not deserve to be acknowledged. Most celebrities know not to do this, but others seem to only have a negative setting in their soul. Over the years, it's been said that pop singing sensation Rihanna doesn't even look or speak to her staff. An anonymous source revealed that Rihanna literally refers to the staff as hired help. She also falls asleep when she is getting her makeup done, which must be so great for everybody in the room. Rihanna just snoring in a chair and someone running around being like, it's okay, she's just warming her voice up, guys, it's fine. Rihanna is also known for being pretty rude to her fans as well. One lady won backstage passes for herself and her family, and when they went back to do the meet and greet portion of their tickets, Rihanna didn't even face them and actually asked one of her assistants to come and sign something for them, sitting in her makeup chair like a Disney villain shooing people away. Number 8. George Clooney. George Clooney is the epitome of class, okay? Just watch his Nespresso commercial with Danny DeVito. These two were meant to be together. He is known to be very charming, especially when meeting fans or appearing at red carpet events. But it turns out that George Clooney is not exactly the easiest man to work for. Apparently, George is a little bit stingy and is extremely paranoid that people will take advantage of him, meaning that he is very untrusting of his staff. According to disgraced former employees who left in shame, Clooney's staff are not allowed to go anywhere near the no-no juice chamber, or cabinet as most people call it. George is reportedly nervous that someone will try to steal a sip of some of his more expensive options. The staff alleged that George would mark his bottles after each use so that he could actually see where the liquid was the last time that he had himself a glass. After each and every use, this man was just whipping out a marker and just notching away and just remarking and remarking. Hey, paranoia is one thing, but that is next level, okay? Just get a little bottle lock or something more complicated. I feel like there are some easy ways to get around that if you really dedicated your time to it. I'm not gonna do that, but someone might. Number 7. Beyonce. Beyonce has 3 simple rules if you work for her on tour. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. And in other words, don't look at Beyonce, don't talk to Beyonce, don't even listen to Beyonce. Maybe not that last one, but you get my point. Beyonce is a massive star now, but even 10 years back, she was considered to be a major diva that felt that she was above everybody else. While she was on tour in 2013, all local staff were advised not to look or speak or approach Beyonce. They were explicitly told that if she was walking down a hall towards them, to find an unlocked room and get in there as soon as possible, out of sight, out of mind. On top of that, everything backstage had to be draped in linen, which then had to be smoothed out after she would walk on it. Now, if that's how rude she was in 2013, imagine what she must be like now. She probably has someone fanning her in a chair between sets, while another person feeds her grapes and does her taxes. Luxury. That is luxury. Number 6. Zooey Deschanel. New girl Zooey Deschanel is known in Hollywood as a lovable, dorky little lady. She's so pure and innocent, and she dated Jim Carrey in Yes Man for some reason. Such a good movie, I'm not gonna bash on it. But it's not just Hollywood that knows Zooey as a lovable dork, her fans do too. There is no way that she would have a mean bone in her body, right? Well, it turns out that Deschanel is actually very rude and reportedly very demanding. While working on the set of the sitcom New Girl, several former staff members claimed that Zooey was constantly making up her own rules on the set and on the show. Being the main character allowed her to voice her ideas, and more often than not, the showrunners would just make it work. One of those rules that she made up was that at the end of each episode, that it had to be her and another character. She's gotta be the last face you see before watching Big Bang Theory again. It's a great show, and if you hate it, you're just trying to be cool. Overall, she is not even close to the worst person on this list, but we gotta include her because she did make a PA quit out of frustration. But they're not considered people, so who cares? I was a PA, I'm allowed to make that joke. Number 5. Kate Gosselin. Kate, who you may know from her reality show Kate Plus 8, is reportedly very mean to the people she employs. In fact, they would go so far as to say that she is A terrible boss. Oh, I'm sorry for my language. A former nanny who worked for Gosselin revealed that Kate made her babysitter's life a living nightmare. Gosselin got famous for being a mother of 8. My mom comes from a family of 9, but you don't see a TV show for the Newfoundlanders. Now that would be good TV. Despite Kate coming from such a large family and having to take care of so many kids at once, she writes guidelines for the people that work for her. According to several of her former employees, most of Gosselin's nannies quit almost immediately after being hired. Some of the demands that Kate had included in the rule books were things like washing her expensive cutlery by hand and never placing them on the kitchen table. You had to just... The rulebook also said that the staff would be meant to walk lightly, something that was to be taught to the kids as well. Now, I couldn't figure out what the term walk lightly means, but I'm imagining it means teaching the kids to walk like cat burglars from like a 60s cartoon, but that feels wrong for some reason. Number 4, Victoria Beckham. Victoria is talented in many ways, mainly known for being Posh Spice from the Spice Girls. Despite her larger-than-life persona on stage, offstage she is much more serious and straightforward. Her work ethic is very simple. Work and work hard. This method is taught to each and every one of her staff members. A former nanny revealed that Victoria was actually quite rude when it came to being a boss, going on to say that she expected all of her nannies to respond to the name Joe even if their name wasn't Joe. The logic that some are suggesting is that maybe the Beckhams just didn't want their kids to be confused by the multiple nannies and names. They just needed to stick to one to refer to their staff, right? But at the same time, forcing your nannies to respond to a name that's not remotely similar to their own is very rude and annoying. Number 3. Naomi Campbell. Naomi is no stranger to a fiery tantrum or two. According to many people close to her, she has a short temper and some serious anger issues, so as you can imagine, being on her staff is nothing to celebrate about. Her history of mistreating staff is long and legendary. There were so many choices I could have put in this list. In 2000, Campbell was sued by her assistant Georgina Galanis. Apparently, Campbell whacked Georgina with a telephone in a hotel room and then told her she was going to throw her out of a moving car. She pleaded guilty to the charges, admitting that she lashed out in a fit of rage. In 2004, she supposedly headbutted an assistant, bit her lip, and yanked her to the floor, screaming, "F you, you worthless snitch!" Except she didn't say snitch. This woman cannot keep her hands to herself. She transforms into a UFC fighter every time she gets upset. In 2006, Campbell allegedly went after her housekeeper with a cell phone and just flung it right at her. In the past couple of years, more and more stories of former employees have been released, with the general consensus being that this lady is a menace and needs to take a chill pill. Number 2. Madonna. Madonna's voice is known around the world, but so is the fact that she can be a little bit mean from time to time. Not only have there been eyewitness accounts of her being rude to fans, but she's also a bit stingy when it comes to her staff. A few years back, an anonymous source revealed that when one of Madonna's dancers broke her arm during practice, that instead of being concerned and helping, Madonna had a full-blown meltdown, berating the dancer for being so bad at their job. There were also allegations that she said there shall be no fat country singers in her presence. Only she didn't say re-singers. Another source backed these stories up and added that Madonna does not pay very well, but she knows that she can pay people less to work for her for grueling hours because, hey, she's Madonna. There are probably some people out there who would work for a turkey sandwich just to be someone's assistant. White bread with lettuce, please. The source agreed that if there is one common theme with Madonna and her staff, it is that her ego overshadows them and they are supposed to feel lucky to be in her presence. Neither of the sources specified when they quit, but considering the stories, it sounded like they were with Madonna for quite some time. And at number 1, Courtney Love. Singer, actor, and wage thief Courtney Love has a bad habit of not paying her employees. According to some former assistants, she promises big things and fails to deliver on them constantly. In 2010, Love hired Jessica Labrie as her assistant. Courtney allegedly promised her lots of cool things, including bonuses, promotions, a scholarship to Yale, a job on the set of Nirvana's biopic, heck, even a job at Courtney's very own management company. Well, sign me up, man. That's a no-brainer. Only, if something sounds too good to be true, it almost always is. Of course, Jessica agreed to work for Courtney, but love failed to deliver on any of her promises. There was no job on the Nirvana set, there was no scholarship to Yale, sometimes there wasn't even a paycheck. Labrie eventually sued Courtney for lost wages. Sure, she was mad that she didn't get any of the cool things that she was promised, but her main issue was the $2,000 that she was not paid. During the court proceedings, Jessica revealed that while working for Courtney, she was asked to hire a computer hacker to fake legal correspondence. What shady things did she want to cover up? Well, I guess we'll find out in another video. Number 10. Lizzo. It was revealed a little while back that a lawsuit has been filed against the famous pop singer Lizzo, accusing her of creating a toxic work environment and mistreating her background dancers. The accusations range from fat-shaming her crew to forcing them to eat strange fruit from strange places. One of the dancers, Crystal Davies, who is part of the lawsuit, was fired for secretly recording a meeting between herself and Lizzo. The meeting was about the dancer's performance on stage recently and her apparent dislike of the weight that she'd been gaining, claiming that she wasn't committing to her role. According to the plaintiffs, Lizzo made them work ridiculous hours, including up to 12-hour rehearsal days. One of the dancers recounted an experience of having to use the washroom and was forced to do it in her pants while rehearsing so she didn't lose any time. Like, hey Lizzo, if someone asked to use the bathroom, let him go. It took longer for them to get the poor woman a change of clothes than it would have to let her take a five. When the news broke, the world collectively turned on Lizzo and believed every single word that these women are saying, and so far it seems like that's valid. While Lizzo continues to deny the allegations, her career just gets worse and worse. Several of her live stage shows have been cancelled, her music's been pulled from radio stations, and there's an investigation taking place, which is never a good thing. Number 9. Christian Bale. Rumors that the former Batman actor is mean to his co-stars and crew have run rampant for years, ever since his infamous voice recording captured on the set of Terminator Judgment Day. For those who don't know, he shouted at a guy for being in his line of sight during a take. Real professional. However, a former publicist of Christian's named Harrison Chung shared a ton of behind-the-scenes stories, including the fact that Christian was in fact a really mean person, to the point where he literally made little kids cry when they would approach him as fans. Instead of appreciating his reach and enjoying his time with the fans, he reportedly responded to them with anger and lectures about personal space. Chung claimed that working for Christian was a nightmare, so much so that he had to take years of therapy. There have been a few stories regarding Christian and his anger over the years, but making kids cry and forcing the person making him look good to take therapy just means that there's something wrong with this guy. Number 8. Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga is known for a lot of things. A Star is Born, her music career, but for an ex-assistant named Jennifer O'Neill, Lady Gaga is just simply known as evil. O'Neill filed a lawsuit against her former boss in 2013 for $400 grand, the money that she claimed she was owed for her time working as Gaga's assistant. Clapping back against the claims, Gaga got heated. Say that 10 times fast. She counterclaimed that she was forced to do most of the assistant's work herself, complaining that she had to carry her own bags to her room all by herself like a normal person. O'Neill worked with Gaga for 13 months on a $75,000 salary and accompanied her on her Monster Ball World Tour. In trying to justify her actions as a boss, she admitted to partying late at night, sleeping in all day, and literally screaming in the streets. During the court hearing for the case, she also launched into an F-word fueled tirade, swearing over and over again at Jennifer. Gaga was basically blasting this woman with allegations and just kind of denying everything that she was saying. Gaga claimed that Jennifer was always made to be an equal on tour, where Jennifer claims to have been overwhelmed with her workload. Instead of paying O'Neill the damages, Gaga claimed that she was going to spread the wealth to the people that currently worked for her, aka the ones who really deserve it. Eventually they were able to settle the situation outside of court, but the exact dollar exchange is unknown. Number 7. Bill Murray. Bill has always been outed as a menace on set. He yelled at Lucy Liu on the set of Charlie's Angels, but that's not even close to when it started. He got fired from that set, but that's part of another video. Another altercation came off camera on a completely different film. In 1991, Bill was filming What About Bob, a comedy flick of course, but the set was anything but. He reportedly got into an argument with a producer on the film named Laura Ziskin that resulted in him literally throwing her in a lake. Now at the time she called the incident playful, but the rest of the production time was also filled with similar outbursts. Bill would regularly snap on set especially, and directed a lot of his attention at Laura. She recounted a time when Bill said that he was going to throw her across the parking lot before breaking her sunglasses and throwing them across the parking lot. But it wasn't just Laura that was scolded on set. One day when when Bill asked her for a day off and she said no, he flipped in front of the entire crew. He ripped off her glasses and threw them on the ground. Bill's co-star Richard Dreyfuss confronted him about his behavior, and Bill responded by launching an ashtray at him like he was Captain America or something. Everyone on set walked off and flew home to Los Angeles. The film only resumed production when Disney agreed to hire a bodyguard to physically keep these two separate in between takes. Number 6. Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner is the youngest of the Kardashian clan and is extremely successful for her age. In 2019, she made the cover of Forbes magazine as the youngest self-made billionaire ever, following the successful partnership between her cosmetic brand and Ulta, a beauty salon company, which would allow the brand previously only available online and in random pop-ups to actually be on shelves in Ulta's 1,000 stores, which is unfortunate considering where those products actually come from. A lot of employees at the factories that mixed and packaged her makeup and beauty products reported that they were never given proper safety equipment, and you kinda need that to do that job. They were only given like hair nets, lab coats, safety goggles, which meant that their hands and faces were completely exposed. Workers would regularly report migraines, mild chemical burns on their hands, and if that isn't bad enough, they were also forced to act as human test subjects for Kylie's new products. Needless to say, a lot of people quit their jobs very quickly. Kylie was very proud of her company not testing products on animals, but can we all agree that using people is just way worse? Number 5. Mariah Carey. Mariah may get stuck in your head between the months of November and January, but in 2019, all Maria Burgess wanted for Christmas was her wages. Maria sued Mariah, alleging that she worked for Mariah between 2017 and 2018, but did not receive any pay and had to deal with tremendous stress. In the lawsuit, she alleged that Carey would not allow her to take breaks, and she did not specify the hours she had to work, but the lawsuit implied that she basically worked around the clock 24/7. She claims that she was finally forced to leave Mariah after she complained about her working environment, to which Mariah responded with, "I don't care." The suit was apparently settled outside of court, and knowing Mariah Carey, she probably just forked over the cash, no questions asked. She's Mariah Carey. Number 4. Miley Cyrus. Ever since her Disney days, Miley Cyrus has slowly been descending into this weird space between a sweet person and a terrible person. Mostly terrible. While she is known to be a little bit cold towards her fans, her staff has had it even worse. An anonymous source revealed to Radar Online that Miley had 2 dogs who were not house trained. Apparently, Miley just never bothered to train them herself, so every time they would relieve themselves inside, she would just yell at her staff for not picking it up immediately. Not only had she made her own employees cry and quit, but apparently this was something that she did to a ton of employees around the world, reportedly causing mayhem in a New York City hotel after inviting several of her friends over for a good time. According to the hotel staff, she acted like a toddler when they asked her to chill out, literally telling them that they should be grateful that she was even there. Number 3. Kourtney Kardashian. While Kim Kardashian may not be the best boss in the world, Kourtney Kardashian is known as the absolute worst boss of all time. According to former nannies, Kourtney was by far the absolute worst Kardashian to work for. Not only is she a neat freak, needing every single thing to be exactly where it should be, but she is also known for being surprisingly cheap, even once calling a grocery store while she was shopping to compare the price of a chicken breast. If anyone needs that extra 99 cents, it's her. But this isn't the worst thing that she's done. At one time, Kourtney's daughter had bitten a nanny so hard that she had to quit, but instead of letting it go and taking responsibility for not teaching her daughter how to act properly, she berated the nanny, telling her that she should have said something to her daughter in the moment. Because yes, blame the woman that you're paying to raise your kids instead of the kid itself. That makes so much sense. Number 2. Kim Kardashian. How can I do this list without talking about Kim, right? Kim Kardashian is arguably the most famous of her Kardashian sisters, and it would seem she's also the busiest. For example, she has 4 kids, skincare line, her Skims brand, she's attending law school, co-founded an equity team, and she recently even hopped on the podcast train, in addition to filming her new reality TV show on Hulu. Yeah, you may be asking yourself, how does one woman do all that by herself? Well, because she pays people to do stuff for her, of course. She has multiple assistants and nannies to help her stay above the overwhelming workload, but has been known to treat them as lesser than her. For example, on several occasions, Kim and her daughter North would go to lunch accompanied by the nanny, but Kim made her not only sit at a separate table away from them at the restaurant, but she's also known to make the nannies walk like 10 feet away from her at all times, unless she has multiple people with her at once, and then she likes to make them like a walking V formation because it looks cool. If they walk near near her or attempt to walk side by side, she blows up on them behind closed doors. Needless to say, she's had many nannies over the years and's probably made them all cry at least once in a closet. Number 1. Ellen. Ellen DeGeneres had one of the most successful daytime talk shows right up until 2020. Her show became overwhelmed with accusations of a toxic work environment from former employees. They were claiming that Ellen's happy exterior was nothing more than this facade she was putting in place to keep her audience happy. Fans began questioning awkward moments on her show, and eventually the cracks in her appearance grew bigger and bigger. And there was just way too much information being leaked for any of this to be fake, so Ellen was eventually forced to cancel her show and subsequently herself. She denied every single accusation until the day she was done, but here we are, Ellen free in 2023.
Coming in at number 10 is Gordon Ramsay. Now, obviously, this doesn't really come as a surprise to anyone, but also in the world of cooking, I don't actually think that Gordon Ramsay is the worst chef out there when it comes to treating his employees like a bunch of schmucks. I don't really need to give examples. If you go and watch almost any of his shows, he has got a no BS policy, and he will call out employees, clients, or hell, kitchen contestants aggressively for their shortcomings and idiocracy. But on the flip side of that, Gordon does reward hard work, stands up to aggressive customers, can be genuinely very nice, and if you've watched any of the kids' cooking shows he works on, you see that he is actually genuinely nice to children. Anytime we have seen Gordon Ramsay lose himself on somebody, it's always been someone that is at a high enough level in their career to know better, or they're at a high enough level that they've dealt with angrier French chefs, like the one who initiated Gordon into his career path in the first place. Number 9. Kendall Jenner. Once upon a time, a TikTok documented story was told by a disgruntled waitress that took place between Kendall Jenner and said server at Mercer Kitchen one night when Jenner asked for a cocktail and was denied her request. It's worth noting that she was underage at the time, so being denied is how it goes. But being told no is just not something that we can handle, is it? No, it's not. So she stormed out of the restaurant without paying her bill. Does that count as theft? I don't know. What's that actual charge? What's the charge for doing that? Tell me down below. Whatever it is, Kendall won't be worrying about the law because she did pay eventually. The server just had to chase her onto the street and request the money, which is when Jenner reportedly threw some cash in the server's face and carried on her merry way, bringing joy and smiles to the world. End of story. You're welcome. Number 8. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan is known for her love of parties, or rather, I think she's known for those parties not going particularly smoothly and she winds up somewhere she doesn't want to be. Sure, Lohan is making a lot of effort to recover, and I think she's had her fair share of shame from the rest of us. But it doesn't really help when you learn that when the party has worn out, its welcome, it leaves us with a hungover Lohan, and that girl is mean. Recently, some of Lohan's staff members have confided that she often wakes up at noon at the earliest, which, hey, I think all of us would do that if we had the chance. But naturally, Lohan is always in a terrible mood due to the hangover she has, and often takes out her crabbiness on her employees. Number 7. Rihanna. I don't wish for this to be true, but if it's on the internet, it must be true. That's how that goes, right? Honestly, we all know that Rihanna has some attitude and doesn't really put up with idiots, but we also know that she is incredibly fun and funny and has been just the best at times. Unfortunately, there's always some bad with the good. One of Rihanna's alleged staff members has come forward to vouch for her apparent sassy side. She stated that Rihanna has been an absolute nightmare to work for a long time. She said that Riri makes all kinds of ridiculous demands, is always under the influence of one substance or another, and has a total disregard for basic manners. Apparently, she doesn't even bother speaking to her staff. An anonymous source said that Rihanna doesn't talk to any of the, as they put it, hired help. Apparently, Rihanna also falls asleep when she is getting her makeup done, but that one I want to hope is just because of her massive busy schedule. Coming in at number 6 today is Beyonce. This one is almost as hurtful, if not more hurtful, than finding out Rihanna can be a little crabby sometimes. Beyonce, the queen bee, apparently can be a bit of a diva. Now I'm gonna pause here to say, it's Beyonce. Of course she's a diva. While I'm sure most of us imagine her as a graceful angel blessing us all with her presence, yeah. Well, a source revealed that about 10 years ago, while she was on a tour, all the local staff were instructed by Beyonce's people to not look at her, speak to her, or approach her. The staff were actually told before the show that if Beyonce was coming down the hall, you were to find an unlocked room and immediately go into it out of her presence. Which is just kind of hilarious, but also what the hell? But that ain't the end. Everything backstage had also had to be draped in linen, which then had to be smoothed out after she walked on it. And that part feels made up, but for some reason, I also believe it. Number 5, Tiger Woods. We all know that the moral standpoint of our friend Tiger Woods here is a little wavering, you know? Cheating on his wife aside, the guy is also apparently just not the nicest. Hank Haney, Tiger's former coach, with whom he had a pretty big falling out, gave out a few details about Woods' personality and etiquette around others. The angry former coach is obviously not on the greatest terms with the golfer, but he also has stated that Woods was a total jerk. He would force everyone he was dining with to leave the restaurant when he felt like it, whether they were ready or not, whether they were done eating or not. Haney also said that Woods had a reputation for tipping notoriously small amounts after eating out, and sometimes he wouldn't even tip at all. If you have Tiger Woods money and you do not tip, do not talk to me. Then again, you probably wouldn't be talking to me if you had that kind of money anyways, but grr, Tiger Woods, bad. Number 4, Lea Michele. Lea Michele was the closest thing to a lead on Glee, and she has become pretty well known recently for being an absolute nightmare to work with, as well as being outed as an itty bitty smidge bit racist by her co-stars and some crew of the show where she made some people's lives apparently living hell. In a statement from one of her co-stars, Heather Morris, she wrote, quote, "Let me be very clear, hate is a disease in America that we are trying to cure, so I would never wish for hate to be spread on anyone else." With that being said, was she unpleasant to work with? Very much so. For Lea to treat others with the disrespect that she did for as long as she did, I believe she should be called out. So, we know she's made set life pretty hellish, but that extends to the service industry as well. It's been alleged that Michelle verbally accosted a waiter once by chastising him and telling him he had no idea what he was talking about. Now first of all, anyone who says that at a restaurant to a waiter is probably the one who doesn't know what they're talking about. But there we go. Michelle reportedly made fun of him when he tried to explain the ingredients in the dish, and then complained about him to more than one manager. More than that though, Michelle was actually dining with her family and reportedly sent her father to knock on the kitchen window to see when the food was coming. Which is just so embarrassing. I couldn't do that. Nah. Number 3, J-Lo. Jennifer Lopez has been known, other than her marriages, for being relatively hard to work with. Among other incidents, J-Lo has been accused of getting a hotel maid fired for asking for her autograph. She's been rude to a flight attendant and put loads of pressure on her personal assistant, who was expected to do anything she needed you to do at the minute, whether that was cooking, cleaning, or scheduling. Which sounds like an assistant's job, but meh. Jenny has an infamous list of requirements for her staff as well. Back in 2012, it was suggested that the singer banned the people working on her new San Fernando Valley, California home from talking to or making eye contact with her. Heather Morris, who we talked about for Lea Michele, also used to be a backup dancer for J-Lo and claimed that after 8 hours of hoofing for a spot on the tour, Lopez asked all the dancers to raise their hands if they were Virgos, and then sent all those Virgos back home. Which is mean to Virgos. I'm a Virgo, that's rude. Leaked documents also reveal that Lopez's spaces, like hotels and all that jazz, must be painted entirely white with white linens, drapes, furniture, and even candles. Which is what? And also lastly, Jenny from the block apparently makes her assistant talk to waitstaff and airline employees instead of just talking to them directly. Jenny was from the block, but she's not anymore. Coming in at number 2 today is Usher. Before Usher was 21, he reportedly tried to use his celebrity status to force a bartender to sell to him, which was indeed refused. Now, we can try and blame that on a famous, rich, young person trying to flaunt his newly acquired fame. That is somewhat excusable, not really, but somewhat. But But then again, it's also been stated that he has returned to the exact same establishment years later, and this time he left behind his autograph instead of a tip. And that makes me want to cry to the heavens and ask who gave this man the audacity. On top of that, several people on Reddit have claimed that Usher is just a rude customer. In a thread dedicated to exposing Server's experiences with celebrities, one Reddit user claimed that the R&B star refused to order for himself or speak to staff directly. The user also claimed that Usher didn't tip them, not even an autograph this time. Wow, crazy. And finally, in at number 1, it's Naomi Campbell. The legendary model Naomi Campbell changed the fashion industry and is still one of the most important supermodels ever. If you think that means she must be nice, then let me introduce you to the way the world works. Naomi has been so bad that it's led to actual legal action, multiple times. As some examples, in 2000, Campbell was sued by her assistant Georgina Galanis, as apparently the model blunt forced Galanis with a telephone in a motel room and then threatened to push her out of a moving car. That's pretty bad on its own. But then again, in 2004, Campbell supposedly introduced her personal assistant, Ami Castaldo, to her forehead with force, and then bit her lip and yanked her to the floor while screaming, words I'm not allowed to say online. And then in 2006, Campbell allegedly pulled another blunt force on her housekeeper this time, Anna Scalavino, with a mobile phone. That same year, Campbell is said to have open palmed her assistant, Amanda Brack, and struck her on the head again with a mobile phone. So basically, if you ever see Naomi Campbell with a phone, or a walkie-talkie, or a BlackBerry, or like, I don't know, a telegram, you gotta be on guard because she's coming for you. Like she attacks with that stuff. All jokes aside though, between 1998 and 2010, 8 employees have accused the supermodel of getting physical with them, and I don't think we should just let that off lightly at all. Not cool. Kicking off the list at number 10 is Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle is more than a little divisive, and she has been for a hot minute. Ever since her and Prince Harry became a thing, people love to dish out how she's apparently incredibly mean to those who work under her. Interestingly though, it's usually those who don't like her that seem to bring these issues forward, but nonetheless, there have been multiple reports of Meghan treating royal staffers less than appropriately. According to one story, the former actor was tasting food for her wedding, and she had reportedly requested a quote, macrobiotic alliterative option. Now, I don't even know what those words mean, but apparently it means no eggs, because she got very upset when she thought there was egg in the dish, and well, there wasn't. According to Vanity Fair's royal reporter, Katie Nichol, quote, she said, no, I can taste it. I can taste there's an egg in this dish. And I think there was a bit of an upset when suddenly the Queen walked in and she just quietly took Meghan to the side and said, Meghan, in this family, we don't speak to people like that. There were also a series of leaked emails written by Jason Nauf, a former palace communications secretary, that were sent to Prince William's private secretary with the names of 2 bullied staffers subbed for X and Y. In the email, Nauf wrote, the Duchess seems intent on always having someone in her sights. She is bullying Y and seeking to undermine her confidence. We have had report after report from people who have witnessed unacceptable behavior towards Y. Number 9, Anna Wintour. You ever seen The Devil Wears Prada? If you haven't, well, be better and go watch it. The main villain of the film and the book it's based on is the assistant protagonist boss, Miranda Priestley, the powerful New York City-based editor-in-chief of the fictional fashion magazine Runway, who of course is fictional. But the author of the book, Lauren Weisberger, worked as a junior assistant for Anna Wintour, a New York City-based editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine since 1988, and that is not fictional. What does that tell us? Lauren has since said that the list of demands made by the editor in the novel is made up of both fact and fiction, with the factual parts being inspired by what she endured early in her career under Wintour. There is a whole book semi-based on the way that this woman would treat her assistants and how it completely changes a person for the worst. So that's all you need to know, really. Number 8, Katie Couric. Back in 2021, journalist and presenter Katie Couric published a memoir called Going There, which was supposed to be all fun and gossipy, but it was decidedly not that. She described in the book how she froze out female colleagues at NBC to protect her quote, turf at the top, and how she loved getting under rival female colleagues' skin. According to a TV industry insider, Couric contributed to the infamous toxicity at NBC and was part of a culture that wasn't supportive of women. In her book, she talks down on women from Martha Stewart to Diane Sawyer and Deborah Norville, and it's all for the ambition they show, which is pretty similar to Katie's own ambition. Those who have worked for Couric say that her memoir is par for the course with the celeb. According to an anonymous senior news producer, quote, "She gives fresh meaning to that old saying, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help other women." Another female co-worker whose feelings she hurt is Ashley Banfield, who staffers said was humiliated by Couric at the 2000 Olympics and treated like a child. Couric even admits in her book that she gave Banfield the cold shoulder because helping her would have been, quote, self-sabotage. There's also the fact that she kind of excused the actions of Matt Lauer, but that's a whole separate thing all of its own. Number 7. Naomi Campbell. The legendary model Naomi Campbell changed the fashion industry and is still one of the most important supermodels ever. If you think that means she must be nice, then let me introduce you to the way the world works. Naomi has been so bad that it's led to actual legal action, multiple times. As some examples, in 2000, Campbell was sued by her assistant Georgina Galanis as apparently the model blunt forced Galanis with a telephone in a hotel room and then threatened to push her out of a moving car. In 2004, Campbell supposedly introduced her personal assistant, Amy Castellado, to her forehead with force and then bit her lip and yanked her to the floor while screaming, "You effing worthless bee." I can't actually say the words, but I think you can infer what I'm trying to say here. And then in 2006, Campbell allegedly pulled another blunt force on her housekeeper, Anna Scolavino, with a mobile phone. That same year, Campbell is said to have open palmed her personal assistant, Amanda Brack, and struck her on the head, again with a mobile phone. So what I'm saying is that 1, she's literally physical with people, and 2, her choice of tool for these interactions seems to always be some form of communication device. So if you ever see Naomi Campbell with a phone or like a walkie-talkie or something, just be on guard, okay? Because she's vicious with that. She's vicious with it, that's all I'm saying. All jokes aside though, between 1998 and 2010, 8 employees have accused the supermodel of getting physical with them, and I don't think we should just let that off lightly. Number 6. Victoria Beckham. If you thought that the Spice Girl, who went by Posh Spice, wasn't going to be at least a little problematic with her staff, well, I don't know, I guess you were wrong, huh? Look at that. A former nanny of fashion designer and former Spice Girl Victoria Beckham has revealed that Victoria expects all the nannies of her household to answer to the name Joe, even if their name is not Joe. So, if you're working with Naomi Campbell, you get dinged up by the wonders of modern communication, but if you're working for Victoria Beckham and her kids, your individual identity is at stake. So pick your poison, I guess. Remind me to never work for a celebrity, ever. Apparently, this is because the very first nanny of Beckham's daughter Harper was named Joe, and I suppose this rule is to not confuse the kid? But you're telling me that your kid can't understand the basic principles of jobs and employee turnover? I don't know. Seems a little suspicious. Number 5. Madonna. She may be one of the most influential artists in pop music, but Madonna has a rep. I think someone somewhere probably knew she would be on a list like this, and maybe it was you. Ooh. Madonna has a huge team of people under her, and while in one instance you would have her backup dancers willing to get arrested for dancing provocatively in her shows in Toronto, you'd have way more instances of them just not being paid or not being paid in full, which has led her employees to sue her multiple times. She has fired or lost staff for taking time off, being upset about the crazy long hours they're expected to work, the fact that they don't get enough breaks, and for being required to be on call 24/7. On top of that, she's been sued multiple times for acting inappropriately with her staff, and a couple of years ago, an anonymous source revealed that when one of Madonna's dancers broke her arm during practice, instead of being concerned, Madonna threw a fit. Number 4. Lady Gaga. I know the Lady Gaga fans are many, and I know they are powerful, but alas, if your idol is kind of the worst sometimes, I am honor-bound to talk about it. Sorry. Gaga's former assistant Jennifer O'Neill says that Lady Gaga has a, quote, big head. and that her demands became bigger and bigger once she started to get bigger. That same assistant was the one who eventually sued the artist for $400,000 in unpaid overtime, which was settled out of court. Not only did she not get paid what she fairly earned, but the assistant had discussed some of the expectations of the job once Gaga had gotten big. She had to handle around 20 bags of luggage at the same time, handle all the singer's communications, and she was on call at every moment of the day. According to O'Neill, she was by her side virtually 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That includes sleeping in the same bed with her because she did not sleep alone. And Jennifer wasn't even given breaks for food or sleep, so imagine how that worked out. Not very well. Number 3. James Corden. From what I know, Late Late Show host James Corden being exposed as kinda just the worst is a more recent revelation. There have been a few different stories that I've heard of, including a little back and forth with Sir Patrick Stewart at an awards show a few years back, which you can watch on YouTube, and I suggest you do because it's kind of really awkward and really funny. But the story I hear the most involves James being a menace to the service industry. According to Balthazar owner Keith McNally, who took to Instagram on October 17, 2022 to publicly ban James Corden from the New York City restaurant, James Corden is, quote, a talented comic but a tiny cretin of a man. Which is just hilarious. In his Instagram post, he detailed multiple incidents in which James was rude, dismissive, or nasty to the restaurant staff, calling the late night host the worst he'd had in 25 years of hospitality service. That's coming from a guy who runs a New York restaurant, so you know he's seen some things. But even though McNally forgave Corden and lifted his ban, it got people talking. Like former Spice Girl Mel B, who dubbed James Corden the biggest D-head in Hollywood while on Britain's The Big Narsty Show on December 2nd, 2022. According to her, James feels people are beneath him. She said, quote, whether it be production, camera guys, sound lighting, we all work for the same thing, so you should always be nice. And he hasn't been very nice. Number 2. Vin Diesel. If you think having a co-producer credit on the absolutely massive Fast and Furious franchise would go to someone's head, well, you'd be correct. Look at you go. Armed with his producer credit, Vin Diesel has been able to get away with a lot of tardiness on his Fast and the Furious sets. With the power to make decisions about pretty much everything, Vin has apparently peed off quite a few cast and crew members on his films. Apparently, he ain't a fan of 7 AM Monday morning call times for set, which is kind of understandable. So, the whole production was forced to make it 10 AM just for him. These are 12-hour days, usually more actually, just so we understand what's going on here. But even with that adjusted time schedule, Vin was often 30 minutes to an hour late to shoot scenes. And it wasn't because he was late to set, it's because he was chillin' in his 1,100 square foot, 2-story, custom-built gold trailer with $70,000 worth of technology, round-the-clock video surveillance, and granite countertops in the kitchen. I'm actually not joking, and that trailer does indeed follow him around the world to sets. It's actually kinda cool, not gonna lie, but not cool enough to hold up entire productions. Vin also makes very big decisions about what will and won't happen on the films, and he would tick off a lot of people doing that. One of them famously being The Rock, who made a post about it online. Now, The Rock regrets that action, but as he said in a later interview, quote, yet interestingly enough, it was as if every single crew member found their way to me and either quietly thanked me or sent me a note. But yeah, it wasn't my best day sharing that. And finally, in at number 1, Alec Baldwin. No, I'm not going to be talking about the fact that Alec Baldwin accidentally took someone's life on set, but I will be talking about how the actor has been accused of belittling customer service workers. In May 2023, a server accused Alec of calling her a peasant. The anonymous waitress told Page 6, I was going to feed the head of the table, but that's who Alec was talking to. So I go up to him and I say, I'm sorry sir, but we're going to have servers walking through the tables here in a minute. Which is when Alec asked her, so when is it a good time to talk to my friends, huh? Adding to that, he was very agitated and asked her, quote, do I have to explain it to you? After replying that she didn't need Alec to explain a damn thing, Alec allegedly said, well then, step aside. Apparently, afterwards, her co-workers informed her that Alec had called her a peasant as she continued on doing her job. Now, there are also multiple clips online of Alec getting pretty aggressive with paparazzi, which is okay, and there was a time he got pretty fed up when cycling through New York. Baldwin has been known for his anger issues for quite some time now, so yeah.
Number 10. Kim's nannies. Kim Kardashian is arguably one of the most famous of the Kardashian sisters, and it would also seem she's the busiest. For example, Kim has 4 kids, a skincare line, her Skims brand, she's attending law school, co-founded an equity team, and even recently hopped on the podcast train. In addition to filming her new reality show on Hulu. You may be asking yourself, how does one woman do all of that by herself? Well, she pays people to do it for her, duh. She has multiple assistants and nannies to help her stay above the overwhelming workload, but has been known to treat them as lesser than herself. For instance, on several occasions, Kim and her daughter North would go to lunch, accompanied by a nanny. But Kim would always make her nanny sit at a separate table far away from them when they were in restaurants. But she is known to make her nannies also walk at least like 10 feet away from her at all times. Unless she has multiple nannies with her at once, then she likes to make them stand in like a V formation because it looks cool apparently. If they walk near her or attempt to try and walk side by side, she blows up at them behind closed doors. And needless to say, she has had many nannies over the year and has probably made a lot of them cry at least once. Number 9. Kourtney in general. While Kim may not be the best boss in the world, it's Kourtney who is known as the absolute worst boss of all time. According to former nannies, Kourtney was by far the worst Kardashian to work for. Not only is she a neat freak, needing every single thing to be exactly where it should be, but she's also known for being surprisingly cheap, even once calling a grocery store while she was shopping to compare the prices of a chicken breast. Because, you know, if anyone needs that extra 99 cents, it's Kourtney. But this isn't the worst thing she's done. At one time, Kourtney's daughter had bitten a nanny so hard that she had to quit. But instead of letting it go and taking responsibility for not teaching her daughter how to act properly, she actually berated the nanny and told her that she should have said something to her daughter in the moment. Cause yes, blame the woman that you're paying to raise your child instead of the child itself, who's probably got some kind of an abandonment issue. Number 8. Toxic chemicals. Kylie Jenner is the youngest of the Kardashian clan, is extremely successful for her age. In 2019, she made the cover of Forbes magazine as the youngest self-made billionaire ever, following the successful partnership between her cosmetic brand and Ulta, a beauty salon company, which would allow the brand previously only available online and in random pop-up stores to be placed on shelves in Ulta's 1,000 plus stores. This is unfortunate considering the true nature of just where those products come from. You see, many employees at the factory that mix and package her makeup have reported that they were never given any proper safety equipment that one would require to do that job. They were only given hairnets, lab coats, and safety goggles, leaving their hands and faces completely exposed. And workers would regularly report migraines, mild chemical burns on their hands, and a myriad of other symptoms. If this isn't bad enough, they were also forced to act as human test subjects for Kylie's new products. Now, Kylie was very proud of her company not testing products on animals, but we can agree that using people like guinea pigs is like a billion times worse, right guys? Number 7. The underpay. While the Kardashians have had their problems with staff individually, there seems to be one specifically toxic trait that the family shares as a unit. They don't like to pay people. Former employees have come forward over the years calling out the family for not paying them fair wages or overtime hours. The Kardashians don't cover expenses, meaning gas, food, rent, anything that you need is paid out of pocket, with zero money coming back to you. To make matters worse, the Kardashians wouldn't pay them on a set amount of days, meaning you just kinda gotta check when you gotta check and had to deal with it in between A and B. You would think with the family being one of the richest in the world that they would at least pay the people that help run their lives. Now, while they have a massive staff of people cooking their food, folding their clothes, and raising their children, they barely even acknowledge their existence. Just imagine what would happen if that staff decided to walk out. The family would crumble in less than a day. Number 6. Factory workers. Popping back to Kylie's makeup factory for a moment, we felt the need to split her misdoings into 2 separate entries simply because of just how messed up this place really is. Not only do they not have proper safety equipment and are basically used as human test subjects whenever Kylie wants, the factory itself is small and cramped, with many employees claiming that there were too many workers and not enough space. This description sounds very similar to, a sweatshop, which is a word describing a workplace in which the employees work ridiculous hours and brutal conditions for nearly nothing for pay, and a lot of people agreed with that statement. One former tester recounts having to constantly go back and forth to the bathroom as her anxiety was always through the roof. She was around so many people so much of her day, and it was such a terrible work environment. We completely understand the need to escape. At one point a few years back, Kylie even refused to pay her employees at a garment factory in Bangladesh, leaving thousands of employees with no money and no idea when or if they were going to return to work. Man, you know what? You suck, Kylie. Number 5, Victoria. Victoria Valero has been Kylie's close personal assistant since 2015, but the pair go back to 2014 when she was interning as a personal assistant for Kylie's mother, Kris. After gaining the family's trust, she was hired as Kylie's house manager at first, but soon after became her personal assistant. Herself and Jenner became very close over the years, and Victoria was even present at the secret birth of Kylie's daughter, Stormi. Now you would think with being so close to the family through thick and thin that she would want to stick around, right? Well, all good things must come to an end, as Victoria decided to quit in 2019. Many fans allege that she had just quit her job to focus on becoming an Instagram influencer, but that was far from her real reason for leaving. Being in that family means seeing a lot of stuff and doing a lot of stuff. And Victoria was basically in charge of scheduling Kylie's life, booking appointments, meetings, massages, all of this stressful enough, basically being a 24/7 gig, but the job was also very degrading, with Kylie having Victoria even pull out a stool once and set it up outside so that Kylie could get out of her car smoother. I think anyone in their right mind would want to get out of that job as quickly as possible. Number 4, paid in exposure. When Andre Turbia, a very famous YouTube animator and content creator, was asked to work with Kylie Jenner, he thought that his life would change forever. He was under the impression that the collaboration would grant him a huge amount of money, possibly a guest spot on her reality TV show, and maybe some shoutouts online via Instagram and Twitter. However, when Andre brought up the topic of his compensations to Jenner, she responded with, "Oh, the company doesn't actually have a budget right now to pay you, so we're just gonna have to pay you in exposure." Like, okay, that's cool. You can't cook exposure in a frying pan and eat it for dinner though, and I'm pretty sure it's not currency accepted at any gas stations or banks that I know of. And of course, by exposure, she meant that Andre's name was going to be printed as small as possible underneath her content. Andre did what anyone in their right mind would do in that situation and refused to work with her, telling her to take her exposure and shove it where the sun don't shine. Number 3, GoFundMe. In March 2021, Kylie, oh look, she's back again, shared an Instagram post asking for prayers for one of her makeup artist named Samuel Rhoda. The post redirected fans to a GoFundMe page where they were asking to donate money for covering his medical bills for an upcoming surgery. That's right, the woman made a feature on Forbes' top 60 self-made women and was asking her fans to give over the goods. So why would she not just use some of her billions of dollars to cover the bills herself? Well, she went online to claim that her and Sam didn't actually know each other personally, but she had worked with him a few years ago and thought that he was a sweetheart. Supposedly, her current makeup artist had shared a post about Samuel's accident, which included a link to a GoFundMe campaign created by his family. She went on to let fans know that she herself donated like $5,000. Okay, sure, that's a ton of money for us, but for Jenner, that's like $5. So something tells me the surgery is going to be a little bit more than that. This is just another instance proving that Kylie is the absolute worst. Number 2, Forbes flub. Oh, I'm sorry, was that not enough proof for you that Kylie sucks? Well, hey, here you go. As mentioned earlier in this list, Kylie Jenner made the cover of Forbes magazine in 2019 as the youngest self-made billionaire ever, following the successful partnership between her cosmetic brand, named after herself, and Ulta, a beauty salon company. Well, it turned out that wasn't really the case. Jenner allegedly sold half of her cosmetics company, Kylie Cosmetics, to beauty giant Coty in a deal worth $1.2 billion. Now, this was huge and considered one of the greatest celebrity cash outs of all time. But the first rule of being a famous person is, if you can help it, try not to lie. Especially to like Forbes magazine, who did some digging and revealed that Jenner was actually inflating the size and profit margins of her business. It turned out the cosmetic brand was on a much smaller scale than originally thought, as it was uncovered Jenner only actually made around $314 million after taxes for her company. Several financial advisors backed up the story, claiming that they were berated into complying with the lie and made to help maintain the numbers for publicity's sake. The mother of the family, Kris, even played a key role in gathering false business documents to send to Forbes, making her company appear to be in the billions. Remember, if you can't figure something out, just ask mom. And number 1, the lawsuit. In March of 2021, a lawsuit was arranged by several of Kim's former employees. The plaintiffs claim Kardashian West failed to pay overtime, cover expenses, or provide any legally mandated breaks, which, like, hey, super illegal. They also never received actual pay stubs or any proof of payment whatsoever. They were also made to purchase everything out of pocket, and one plaintiff was even fired on the spot for simply addressing his concerns to Kim. And when the rest were eventually let go, they received no type of severance package or pay of any kind. It was also uncovered that Kim would keep 10% of all of their earnings for tax purposes, but failed to report their employment to tax authorities. Kim's argument was that she could not be held responsible for any of this, as most of her employees were supposedly hired and paid by a third-party company, meaning that she herself was not technically their direct employer and therefore could not be liable. Kim maintains that she paid people on time and that they were suing the wrong person, but if that were the case, maybe Kardashian would have used some of her high status and influence long ago to make things work for her staff so that, hey, maybe she wouldn't be getting sued right now. Something to think about, Kim.